The presidency of Donald Trump was marked by significant change and controversy. Elected in 2016, Trump promised to make America great again. His term ran from January 20th, 2017 to January 20th, 2021. Trump used social media to communicate directly with the public. His presidency focused on economic growth, tax reforms, and strong immigration policies. However, his term was also marred by 2 impeachments and numerous controversies. One of the hallmarks of Trump's presidency was his focus on economic growth. He often touted the performance of the stock market as a measure of success. Under his administration, the US economy saw periods of robust growth. Trump's policies aimed at reducing regulations to promote business activity and job creation. His administration reported significant job growth and low unemployment rates during the early years of his term. Trump's approach to economic policy was heavily influenced by his background in business. He believed that a strong economy could be achieved through lower taxes and deregulation. This approach was praised by some for creating a more business-friendly environment. Despite the positive economic indicators, the growth was not without critics. Some argued that the benefits of Trump's economic policies were unevenly distributed, favoring the wealthy and large corporations. The COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 disrupted the economic gains achieved earlier in Trump's term. Overall, Trump's economic policies were a central feature of his presidency, with both notable successes and significant challenges. Tax reform was another major focus of Trump's presidency. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 was a significant legislative achievement for his administration. The TCJA aimed to simplify the tax code, reduce tax rates, and spur economic growth. It was the most substantial overhaul of the US tax system in decades. The TCJA lowered the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21%. This reduction was intended to make American businesses more competitive globally. The act also provided tax cuts for individuals, though the benefits varied across different income groups. Proponents argued that these changes would lead to increased investment, job creation, and higher wages. Critics of the TCJA contended that the benefits were skewed towards the wealthy and large corporations. Despite these criticisms, the TCJA remained a key component of Trump's economic agenda. Trump's tax reforms were a defining aspect of his economic policy, reflecting his administration's priorities and approach. Healthcare was a contentious issue during Trump's presidency. One of his key promises was to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. Efforts to overturn the ACA faced significant challenges and ultimately failed to pass through Congress. However, the Trump administration made several changes to healthcare policy through executive actions. These included expanding access to short-term health plans and association health plans. Critics argued that these plans offered limited coverage and could undermine the protections provided by the ACA. Another notable action was the elimination of the individual mandate penalty, a key component of the ACA. The debate over healthcare policy remains a critical issue in American politics, with Trump's presidency adding a new chapter to this ongoing discussion. Immigration was a central theme of Trump's presidential campaign and his administration. Trump sought to implement stricter immigration policies, arguing that they were necessary for national security and economic stability. His administration took several high-profile actions in this area, including the travel ban and the construction of a border wall. The travel ban, introduced in 2017, restricted entry to the US from several predominantly Muslim countries. This policy faced legal challenges and was modified multiple times. Critics labeled it as discriminatory, while supporters argued it was essential for national security. Trump also prioritized the construction of a wall along the US-Mexico border. This project aimed to curb illegal immigration and drug trafficking. While significant portions of the wall were built, it remained incomplete by the end of his term. Other immigration policies included the termination of the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA program. Trump's immigration policies were a defining feature of his presidency, reflecting his administration's priorities and approach to national security. Trump's foreign policy towards China was marked by tension and confrontation. The administration took a tougher stance on trade, intellectual property theft, and China's growing global influence. One of the most significant actions was the imposition of tariffs on Chinese goods, leading to a trade war that affected both economies. The trade war began in 2018 when the Trump administration imposed tariffs on $50 billion worth of Chinese imports. China responded with tariffs on American goods. Negotiations between the two countries led to a partial trade agreement in January 2020. The Phase 1 deal included commitments from China to purchase more American goods and strengthen intellectual property protections. Despite this agreement, many underlying issues remained unresolved and tensions persisted. The US-China relationship during Trump's presidency was complex and multifaceted, reflecting broader geopolitical shifts. The Trump administration made significant efforts in Middle East diplomacy, particularly through the Abraham Accords. These agreements, brokered by the US, normalized relations between Israel and several Arab nations, including the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain. The accords were seen as a historic step towards peace and cooperation in the region. The Abraham Accords marked a shift in Middle East dynamics. They were the first such agreements between Israel and Arab countries since the 1994 Israel-Jordan peace treaty. The accords aimed to foster economic, cultural and security cooperation. Trump and his administration viewed these agreements as a key foreign policy achievement. The administration also took a strong stance on Iran, withdrawing from the 2015 Iran nuclear deal and reimposing sanctions. This move was intended to pressure Iran to renegotiate terms and curb its nuclear ambitions. Critics argued that it increased regional tensions and risked conflict, while supporters believed it was necessary to address threats from Iran. Overall, Trump's Middle East initiatives were significant and left a lasting impact on the region's diplomatic landscape. Trump's approach to North Korea was another notable aspect of his foreign policy. His administration pursued direct diplomacy with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, aiming to denuclearize the Korean peninsula. The two leaders held 3 high-profile summits, which were unprecedented in US-North Korea relations. The first summit took place in Singapore in June 2018. It resulted in a joint statement where North Korea committed to denuclearization and the US agreed to provide security guarantees. However, critics argued that the agreement lacked specifics and that North Korea's actions did not align with its commitments. A second summit in Hanoi, Vietnam in February 2019 ended without an agreement. Despite the lack of concrete outcomes, the summits were significant for breaking the diplomatic ice and opening channels of communication. The third meeting occurred at the Korean Demilitarized Zone in June 2019, where Trump briefly stepped into North Korea. This symbolic gesture was heralded by some as a step towards peace. While the summits were historic, they did not result in a comprehensive denuclearization agreement. Trump's presidency was marked by 2 impeachments, a historic first for any US president. The first impeachment, in December 2019, centered on allegations that Trump abused his power by pressuring Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden. The second impeachment occurred in January 2021, following the Capitol riots. The House again voted to impeach him, making Trump the only president to be impeached twice. However, the Senate acquitted him after he left office. The COVID-19 pandemic was a defining challenge of Trump's presidency. The first US case was reported in January 2020, leading to widespread health and economic crises. The administration took actions like travel restrictions and vaccine development. The response was criticized for being slow and inconsistent. Relief packages like the CARES Act provided economic support. Operation Warp Speed accelerated vaccine development. The pandemic had a profound impact on Trump's presidency and the US economy. The 2020 presidential election was one of the most contentious in US history. Trump ran for re-election against Joe Biden. The election saw record voter turnout due to mail-in ballots amid COVID-19. Biden won with 306 electoral votes to Trump's 232. Trump and his supporters claimed voter fraud, leading to legal challenges. On January 6, 2021, a mob stormed the US Capitol. Despite the turmoil, Biden was inaugurated on January 20, 2021.